Let's check in on the eastern leg of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Oliver Sloup joins us again from Blueline Futures. Thank you, Oliver, for being with us. I know yesterday and today both, probably, I think you were in Indiana, though maybe you started only in Illinois this morning. Let's begin with what you found in Indiana and what your route looked like.
Yeah, we did a lot in Indiana yesterday. That was our primary focus. As I'd mentioned, we did a half route, so the other half focused on Ohio. We jumped straight over to Indiana. This morning, we did do a few counties in Indiana, and I think, largely speaking, I think the underlying theme from yesterday was just underwhelming, especially relative to such lofty expectations. Crossing over the state border into Illinois today, which is where we've done a bulk of our sampling, that things have turned a little bit more positive. And I think today's takeaway so far is probably consistency. We're seeing a lot less variability, a lot less issues with regards to weather problems in Indiana. It really looked like a lot of fields could have used quite a bit more moisture and probably still could use quite a bit more moisture to round out these crops. So far from what we've seen in Illinois, that hasn't been the case. It looks pretty darn good, and the yields are a lot more consistent on the counties that we're in. We're actually in McLean County right now, which I've been really looking forward to since before we even got on the road, because it's one of the country's top producing counties. And so far, I mean, we've only done 3 or 4 samples here, but we're in the mid 250s on those yield checks. So it'll be interesting to see what other people find in this county and other counties around us. But I would say it's probably living up to expectations in Illinois so far.
I'm going to guess that your route ran steadily westward from Indianapolis, but mostly north of the interstate or of 74. Is that correct?
Yeah, just north and basically straight line west. So we've come across some good ground. We did get rained on a little bit this morning, but it wasn't anything too bad. It looks like it's kind of cleared up, and we've got a beautiful day and afternoon ahead of us. So hopefully, be able to get some more good data points out there.
And did your yields and your pod counts get steadily higher the further west you have come? And then, of course, you say they've evened out, but at a really high level. Is that correct?
That's correct. Especially once we started crossing the state line and working further west, things seem to be getting better and more consistent through our samples this morning, including Indiana's counties. I think we're averaging uh, right around 222 bushels per acre. So pretty darn good. A lot different from what we saw yesterday. Again, yesterday was just, I think, a story of underwhelming findings across much of the state of Indiana. A different story today in Illinois.
I watched Chip Flory last night, actually this morning, for some of the news pieces that they sent to us. And he was asked an interesting question. I'd like to know your take as well. The question was he more impressed in South Dakota with the corn or the soybeans? He wanted to be more impressed with the corn, but the consistency wasn't quite there, and he was sorely impressed with the soybeans. How about your routes so far? What do you think?
Well, we've split it up, so I'm focusing mostly on corn, but having a conversation with the other riders in my car that do focus on the soybeans. As I've mentioned, it's similar to corn. The further west we go, the better things look, and I think a lot of that, is just soil composition and just the nature of the beast. Illinois has really really good ground, especially in this area, and then they've gotten good weather along the way to really keep things going on the right trajectory. So, yeah, very very good. I would say the people that are counting the beans in our car are, very pleased with what they've seen. The numbers continue to get bigger and better, and again, more consistent, which seems to be the underlying theme for today.
Last night, as you were meeting there north of Indianapolis, what was the common theme from most of the other cars that you were talking to and the crop scouts that were running other routes?
Yeah, I think largely through Indiana, it was just underwhelming. I don't think that was isolated to just our route or vehicle. I think a lot of people were, you know, set the expectations really high, and rightfully so. It was the first day of crop tour, and coming off of last week's USDA report, those expectations are set high. So maybe that was part of it, where you just put such a high watermark out there and you think you're going to see great, perfect corn all day long. That wasn't the case. It wasn't bad corn, but it just fell short of expectations. I mean, with the USDA projecting Indiana at 205, you expected to come across some really good corn. and more consistent corn. But again, variability was seen really throughout our route yesterday, and that seemed to be a theme for other routes as well.
It'll be interesting to see what the numbers tally up like tonight when you're in Bloomington and give that final number for the state of Indiana in that case.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm looking forward to that. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come in a little bit lower. We saw the Ohio number come in a little bit over what Pro Farmer put out last year, but still, again, Ohio was well below what the USDA put out here recently. So again, I think it's a story of underwhelming performance so far on the further east side of things. But again, as we move west, I kind of expect things to get a little bit better.
Oliver Sloup is with Blueline Futures, joined us here on the closing market report. Let's turn our attention to Ted Seifried. He is with Zaner Hedge and traveling in South Dakota and then Nebraska on the western leg. Hi, thank you for being with us, Ted. We appreciate that.
Hey, Todd. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with yesterday in South Dakota. It sounds like that was a really good crop for that state. You've traveled there many times in the past, a veteran of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. How many times have you been out west for the tour, and what did this look like in comparison?
Yeah, so 7 times I've been out west. Out of 11, I've been on the tour 11 times overall. So I've done a little bit of both, but mainly on the west. And I got to say, yeah, the portion of South Dakota that the tour goes through saw some really good numbers yesterday for both corn and soybeans. Being South Dakota, and a normal year, you see a lot of variability. There's just storm damage. You see a lot of different things, and you can see completely different results. Just even a couple miles apart. And I think what everybody was talking about, after South Dakota yesterday was kind of how uniform the crop is. And I think that is how you get to these bigger yield numbers. The other thing is, this time last year, the concern was, okay, the soybean pod counts are one thing, but are they going to get the moisture to finish off, drier soils and things like that? But, this year, better soil conditions, better forecast outlook for them. I think very likely those soybeans are gonna get what they need, or may have most of what they need already. And so, yeah, I think the outlook for South Dakota is really, very good. I think it may justify what the USDA is saying for South Dakota. Now, again, the tour doesn't go through all of South Dakota, but personally, what I've heard from clients in the areas that are part of the tour, such as like the northeast portion or the north central, or even north central west, not quite all the way west, not as much out there. But all the reports for South Dakota are really quite good. So, I think that is one of the really good spots of what we're going to see on the tour. We heard some different numbers coming out of Ohio yesterday. But yeah, South Dakota looks really pretty good.
USDA has South Dakota at 168 bushels to the acre. Yesterday's number released by Pro Farmer on the routes was 174.18, but there's a difference because that's the better part of the state of about 5.3 bushels to the acre generally. That actually puts it down at around 168 because you have to subtract rather than add that number. It's just you're running through a better side. So USDA and it appears Pro Farmer agree on that number, 168, a very good number for corn there. I'm told that what you probably ran through yesterday in Nebraska, if you did, and then again today is really, really good. Can you tell me about what you've seen?
Yesterday, I did a lot of Nebraska yesterday, and yesterday was really very good. I was kind of surprised that the first day in Nebraska is kind of the side of Nebraska that you don't see as much irrigated, and you worry that, this is kind of the rougher spots. They deal with a lot of weather and oftentimes dryness, but it was really good. And it was kind of a continuation from what South Dakota was, meaning, you had cornfields that were kind of at different stages or different lengths as far as how far they need to get to the finish line, or maybe they're like 10 days apart. But you had a lot of uniformity in the ear size, the number around, the ear counts. It was just a very even and a very good-looking crop, and that was kind of whether it was irrigated or dry land. The only difference there would be, ear counts or how high of a population they were pushing. But it was a really good-looking crop. Now, I don't know what's going on the rest of the routes here on day 2 of Nebraska, but for our route in stops today, and keep in mind, my car, we ran the same routes last year, and with Sherman Newman and Karen Braun, and we're kind of disappointed with what we're seeing compared to last year and compared to expectations. Compared to last year, our average corn yield through 9 stops is actually down 3% at just over 200 bushel an acre. But our soybean number is the one that's really off, down 23% from the same stops in the same counties last year. And that was kind of unexpected. And that's mostly irrigated as well. So, Todd, pod counts aren't the be-all, end-all of soybean yield, but obviously the higher pod count you have, the higher potential you have. So just pod count alone, you can't say that the yield is sharply lower because I think that there's a potential to fill these pods out better than last year. But, for that pod count number to be down as much on the route was a bit of a surprise. Now, again, we're one of 15 cars out here today. Could be a different story in different cars. We have one of the most northern routes on this day too. So I can just speak for what we've seen personally. Bit of a surprise, bit of a disappointment here today.
Chip Flory, in his morning comments actually recorded last night, was talking about how good Nebraska he saw yesterday happened to be, and that he was worried that south of the Platte River might be an entirely different subject area. I don't know what your route is traveling like. Are you north or south of the Platte at this time?
So right now we're south, but not by very much. And again, we're one of the more northern routes. We just left Davis City, Nebraska. And by the way, we've seen a whole range of soil conditions, right? I mean, getting out of Grand Island, it was pretty dry. But just here recently, we've been seeing standing water. The last cornfield I was in, I was, up to my ankles in mud. So, it's very varying conditions that we're seeing here today.
Thank you much. I appreciate it. Good luck, and tell Karen and Sherman hello from us here at WILL. We appreciate it.
Absolutely will do. Todd, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Ted Seifried is with Zaner Ag Hedge and traveling on the western leg of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. You can stay up to speed with the tour on our website. Check it out at willag.org. We have some historical numbers from each state. And of course, we're posting the updated Pro Farmer Tour route numbers into the website as well. It's all at willag.org.